Had a little bit of trouble getting the live stream started. For some reason it wouldn't connect. All right, well, so this morning I've been working on this credenza for a while. I started it in December, but then I had a table saw accident and teaching and other things, and so I'm only just now getting back to work on it, and I'm to the point where I'm going to make the drawers for it. And there's a lot to know about making drawers to get them to fit nicely. It's more than just cutting dovetails. And so this morning what we'll do is just, it's going to take more than one live stream to talk about how to make a drawer. So this morning all we're going to do is look at fitting the drawer front, because that's actually the most important part of getting the drawer to fit properly. If you get the drawer front fit correctly, everything else flows from that and is actually pretty easy after that. So yesterday what I did was I actually milled up all the parts for all 5 drawers yesterday. That way I know all the drawer sides are the same thickness, all the drawer fronts are the same thickness, and I roughed them out to approximate size. They're a little bit wider than they need to be. The drawer fronts are a little bit longer. The drawer sides are actually the exact right length. But I've got everything to a size where I can start to work with them. And since I'm not going to get to work with them right away, I've actually bundled them up and wrapped them in plastic. This prevents moisture from moving in and out of the wood, which would cause it to cup and warp and bow and things like that, which you don't want. I mean, I don't like using up all the plastic because I know in the end it's just going to get cut off and thrown away or recycled, but it really is the best thing to keep your wood from moving. So if you go to a home center, you can get a roll of plastic like this and you just wrap it around it. It's also, I travel a lot with parts to go teach, and it's a great way to travel because instead of picking up a bunch of individual parts, I just have this bundle that's wrapped in plastic. Well, 2 bundles actually. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to be making this small drawer on the top here on the right hand side, and I've got the drawer front already made, so I'm going to move the camera, my phone, so that you can see this in greater detail, what I'm about to talk about. All right, I do need to get my front out. Now the 2 drawer fronts that run across the top are cut from a single length of rift-sawn cherry so that the grain will run from one drawer to the other. If you remember last week I talked about how making a piece of furniture is like conducting a symphony, and you have to keep everything sort of in play at once. So when you're, I started to make the drawers really yesterday, or even at the lumber yard when I picked out materials, thinking about the grain that I would use for each drawer front. And then yesterday when I began to mill it, I had to think about my drawers and where they were going to be in the case and how I wanted the grain to be arranged and cut from the board. So when you're making a drawer, just like when you're cutting dovetails, you really start making the drawer long before you actually start making the drawer, because you're paying attention to grain and wood selection and things like that. So yesterday when I milled things up, I had to keep in mind that the grain was going to run across the top all the way, cut out a piece that I could mill up and then cut in 2 and do that. So I'm going to move the camera now so you can see the case piece more closely and see what I'm doing and describing before I get to work. All right. see more of my shop. Now, the first step in making a drawer is actually making the case, because a drawer fits into a drawer pocket. And so here's the drawer pocket that we're working with in this credenza. If you want to make a drawer and have it be as easy as possible, you have to, when you're making the case piece, be very aware of the drawer pocket. And what I mean is, you want this to be square. So the way that this case is constructed is that the outside is solid wood panels dovetailed together, and then the drawer pockets were made by creating what are called, sometimes called dust frames, sometimes called web frames, and they fit inside the case and create the different pockets or the different subdivisions of the case. So on this one, there's 4 drawers along this side, a drawer over here, and then there's going to be 2 doors here, and behind that there's going to be some smaller divisions for storage of specific things. So when I made the internal frame work and installed it, I made sure to get this as square as I possibly could, and I did a pretty good job. So what that means is that at this next stage where I take the drawer front and fit the drawer front to the case piece, I'm not going to have to worry about making the ends an odd angle to keep them parallel to the edges of the drawer pocket. Because the important thing about a drawer is not necessarily that the sides are perfectly straight up and down. If you want your drawer to look nice when you're finished making your piece of furniture, what you want is that the gap around all 4 sides of the drawer is even. And you can do that if the opening's a little bit out of square, and it'll still look nice. But it's a lot easier if the opening is square and you don't have to worry about odd angles. All right. Let me grab the drawer front, and then we'll look at how I've milled it up so far, and then what I need to do to it to get it to fit into the opening. And I'll talk about how it should fit in the opening right now, and how that sets us up for making the drawer and then fitting the drawer after it's made. Now, like I said, today, all I'm pretty much going to get through is fitting this drawer front. And then I'll do either a recorded video or another live stream of another stage, probably not cutting the dovetails, but after it's all constructed and what remains to fit it in, which shouldn't be all that much. But let me step off for a second. All right, so here's my drawer front. This is actually the piece of cherry I found. Is really nice. You can't tell because of the lighting, but it's rift grain, and it's actually figured. So all the drawer fronts have a nice figure to them. A lot of times people ask, or they'll say, they want to use contrasting woods to create some type of visual interest in their work. And a lot of contrast, I don't like contrast. I like complementary woods, but also a really nice thing to do to be subtle and yet still have some differentiation between parts and some visual interest is to use the same species, but say have the drawer fronts be figured while the case itself is not figured. And that's what I've done here. Now the case has been made for a couple of months, and that's why it's so much darker, which this cherry was just milled. All right, what I've done is cut the smaller drawer front from a longer piece that is going to have this drawer front and this drawer front come from it. I made the cut here, and that's going to remain untouched so that the grain flow from the drawer front to the drawer front is as good as I can get. I've removed 1/8 of an inch of material when I made the cut, and that's not going to change. So all the fitting that I'm going to do is going to come from the top edge and the far end. Because this is, it's not perfectly square, but it's really close. That I will wait until the drawer is constructed to finesse that. Down at this lower edge here, this lower corner, it's at a square by maybe the thickness of a sheet of paper, if that. And it may be that it's not at a square, but like this divider here actually feels like it's a little smushed down. And so if I put water on that right there, it'll expand out, and then this will be perfectly square. So I'm not going to mess with that. I'm not going to mess with this. And I'm not going to mess with the bottom. This bottom edge is my reference edge in making the drawer front. Later, when I run the drawer bottom, it's what's going to go against the fence on my table saw. And so this is never going to, nothing's going to get done to this while I'm making it. Now you can see it's got a little bit of a burn there. What I will do is shoot this edge to clean up the grain, and then I'll start fitting. But as an overview, what I'm going to do now, leave this edge, this end, and this edge, the bottom edge, alone. And all the fitting, like I said, is going to take place at this end and then along the top edge. What I'm looking for here is a fit that it's a little tight lengthwise, but it still fits in, but it fits tight enough that we'll slide it in and it'll stand there on its own, and there won't be any noticeable gaps. And then on the top, you can actually go ahead and fit the height of the drawer to where it should be in the end. Because of the way I make drawers, and eventually you'll see this, there's not going to be a need to fit the top edge of anything once it's glued together. It's going to be ready to slide in. And all the fitting is just going to be on the sides of the drawer. All right? So you can go ahead and make the gap up there what it should be. Now, the gap, what should the gap be on the top? Because, you know, depending on how the wood is cut, now this is rift sawn, so it's not going to move as much across its width as if it were flat sawn. So flat sawn, you need to have a larger gap up here so that the wood could expand and contract. You know, especially if you make it in the winter when it's dry, you have to have a larger gap up there. So by the time the summer comes along and it expands, it doesn't seize up or get, you know, bind. So that gap should probably be about a 32nd of an inch right now for me, rift sawn cherry. That might actually even be a little too heavy. So I will probably do somewhere between a 64th and a 32nd right now. And when I'm totally done, you know, this summer when it's in the house, if it gets really humid, which it will, I don't have air conditioning, I'll see if it still works then. And if it doesn't, then I'll bring my drawers out to the shop and fine tune them a little bit during the summer. And that way I know that they work at the time of the year that they're the biggest. So, all right. So what I'm going to do first is work on the length. Now, this is actually about 1/8 of an inch too long. And I am not going to trim that down with a hand plane. All the fitting the finesse fitting that I do will be with a hand plane. But this needs to come down a little bit. And what I'm actually going to do is I'll quickly do that at my table saw to get it close. And then I'll use a shooting board and a hand plane to get that in closer. So for a minute, while I'm cutting it down, you probably want to turn the volume down on your whatever your tablet, your phone, or whatever it is you're watching this on. And then once that's over, it's all going to be hand tools, and it shouldn't take too long to get this to fit in correctly. All right, so I'm moving the camera again. I'm going to cut this down to the table saw, and then it's all hand plane business. All right. I don't know if you ask questions. I don't know if I'll see them because I'm working, but I'll try to answer them. You can always ask questions in the comments after this gets posted. Which, you know, I try to post it as fast as I can. You know, essentially, as soon as I'm done, I start to post it. All right. So I've had my saw stop set up since mid-December, and I absolutely love it. I am going to mark this. Now, one thing you'll notice about everything that I'm doing, well, I did pull out a sort of a ruler to check things for square, but there's not going to be a ruler used at all. I'm not measuring anything. I'm working parts to fit into the openings. So fitting a drawer front is a lot like fitting a tenon into a mortise or fitting a tail into the pin sockets. There's no need to measure. Still take a little bit more off. We'll go with that. Now, if my case was a little bit out of square, what I would be doing at this stage, let me move this back up, is I would take a sliding bevel and I would be referencing off the bottom. I would get this angle, set my bevel gauge to it, and then I would mark that on the end of my drawer front. And then as I'm hand planing this, I would hand plane to that line, and that creates that way the end of the drawer front is parallel to that side of the drawer pocket. And that's what you want. You want the end of the drawer to be parallel to the pocket. You want that all the way around. So you want all four sides to be parallel to the drawer pocket, and that's why your drawer looks nice when you're done. This actually is square, so I don't have to worry about that. I actually was kind of hoping that the drawer pocket would be a little bit out of square, so that I could show you all that. But I'll explain to you what to do if it is and how to get it parallel when you're hand planing. I'll quickly show you. So here's my setup to fit the drawer front. Here's the drawer front. You can sort of see that figure on it now. So I'm using a shooting board and a hand plane. You can use any hand plane. It doesn't have to be one like this, which is a good thing because Lee Nielsen doesn't make these anymore. So I'm going to, like I mentioned, I'm first going to shoot the bottom edge to clean it up. And then I'm going to shoot this end to get it to fit lengthwise. And the reason you start with the end is because as you're shooting, there's a chance that you'll get tear out on this back corner here. And if you save this at the top edge for last, then when you're bringing this down to the right width, you'll get rid of any tear out that's there. All right. And if my end needed to be a little bit out of square, like I said, I would mark it like this. And then if this end needed to be, if it were like this, then I would want to bring this end out. So I would put some blue tape back here. If the end needed to be like this, and obviously this is an exaggeration, then I would bring the top corner out by putting blue tape here. Now, hopefully it only takes like a piece or two, and then, you know, because you want your case really should be as square as possible. If it's really out of square, well, normally I would say just chuck it and start over, but that's a big piece there. I would figure something else out to make it square. All right, so I'm ready to start shooting the end grain here to try to get it to fit in. I'll try to put the camera somewhere. You can see my forsythia. Isn't it looking nice out there? We actually had snow this morning. Try to get this somewhere so that you can see a little more clearly what's going on. What I really need is some kind of camera person. All right. So actually this morning I did sharpen my blade on this plane and got it set up. It's taken a pretty light cut, which is good. So yeah, you want lighter cuts are better. The blade will stay sharper longer. Let me move all this out of the way. And also go get some wax. Because it's not. This will just make the plane move a little more easily across. So yeah, that's kind of how a plane should be set up for end grain work. It's a full width shaving, it's staying together, and you notice that there are no tears in it or anything, which means that the blade, you know, no tears along this way where the plane wasn't cutting. So that means the blade's actually sharp. The one thing I didn't do this morning was check to make sure the fence is square. I took drafting and architectural drafting, mechanical and architectural drafting in high school. And I have tons of squares around my house, and they are endlessly useful. So that is definitely square. If you're interested in my shooting board, there are a version of it is in my book, 52 Boxes in 52 Weeks, which you can buy on my website if you wanted. All right, so it's time to start checking to see how this fits for length. Let me move. And it's almost there. So just a few more passes, I think, I hope. It's just not. So this is really when, this is like how good furniture gets made. You know, there's a time where you can work fast, or efficiently rather, not in a rush, but quickly. And things go really well, and you know, you're like making a lot of progress. And then there are parts of furniture making where you have to slow down and be patient, and get things right. And this is one of those times where you have to slow down, and it takes a little bit longer, but the results are better. All right. So we're looking at like a pass or two now to get it in. It's almost there. Problem is it fits in now, but it's, you see, that's just too tight. And what that means is that if I made the drawer that way, I would just have more work to do afterwards to fit it. And the work that I'd be doing afterwards would be planing down a whole side of the drawer. So if I get it to fit now, it saves me work on the back end. So it fits. Seems to be a little bit out at the top, which I'm thinking is because this end may not be square anymore through. No, it is. So. That's certainly something. Okay. It's a little tight up there. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of blue tape and put it on the fence of my shooting board so that this comes out a little bit, And I'm going to take 1 or 2 passes, and that should get the drawer fitting in there correctly. Now the correct way to take a piece of blue tape off the roll is to cut it cleanly. I hate jagged edge blue tape rolls. All right, I'm hoping just 1 piece of blue tape will get the trick done. I think it will. Okay, it's getting there. So even though the case red is square, it must be ever so slightly out of square, the drawer pocket anyways. And that's why the drawer front is not fitting in there when it's square. Okay, there we go. So that's good. That's good. Just a tiniest little bit of wiggle, which is fine. Now, what I need to do is adjust the width of the front so that it will fit into the pocket that way. And that's only going to take a few passes. Now, there are a lot of different ways you could do this with hand plane. You could clamp it in your vise and shoot and just hand plane it with like a number 5 or something. I also have a fixture that it's like a shooting, well, it's a shooting board, but for long grain, that I can clamp in my front vise and do that. But this is actually short enough that I'm just going to use my shooting board for end grain here. Now, looking at the grain, it appears I should be shooting in this direction. That's such a lovely sound. I forgot to do the bottom. So I'm going to take a couple passes off the bottom real quick to get rid of that burn. So what I'm doing, if you want to know the way the grain runs on the edge of a board, you look at the face of the board. And this grain is really straight, so it almost means you can hand plane in either direction. But if if the grain's running, if it's higher here and it runs down like this as it goes through the board, you always want a plane to lay the grain down. Think of the grain as like a cat. And if the grain is going this way, or the fur of a cat was going this way, and it's loose here and tied down, attached back here. If you were to pet the cat this way, you would raise its fur up and probably upset it. But if you were to pet it this way, you would lay the fur down and the cat would purr. So if you see the grain, you always want a plane up the hill with a hand plane. So if you want to know which way the grain goes on the edge, you look at the face. And if you want to know which way it goes on the face, you look at the edge. All right. I don't like that. Okay. getting close. This is probably not all that exciting to watch. Oh, but there's like 70 of you actually watching it. Thank you for watching. Okay. So I think I'll show you where it stands at this point. Ooh. And kind of describe and show you what else needs to get done before I would actually start making the drawer. Well, I am making the drawer right now, but you know what I mean, cutting the dovetails and all that. So I'm going to move the camera over closer so that you can see in detail how the drawer front fits right now. All right, let me... So here's this end that I shot. You can see there's a little bit of denting in the case, which will come out with a bit of water and maybe steam if I need it. You can see, oh, can you see that? How? It's not really focusing, is it? It's focusing. All right. So this all looks pretty good. These gaps are really minor. And like I said, that's really from the case being dented. And a little bit of water will bring that out. What's more is, okay, see this end. This is the top. You see that gap? You can see that the gap is not consistent as I come across. It's actually really small here. So in order to, before I would move on making the drawer, what I would do is even up this gap. All right. And that's really all that needs to get done before I go to start making the drawer. Now you can see down here, let's see if we can get that to focus. Yeah, there's this little, it's a little gappy there, more than it is. It's pretty consistent, but this gap actually should not be a gap at all right now, because it should be sitting flat on this web frame. But it'll turn out okay. That's not so bad. So that drawer front fits in there really nicely at this point. I'll probably refine it, like I said, a little bit along the top edge. And what I'll do actually is fit this one, and then I'll fit this one because they're the same height. So the dovetailing is going to be identical on them. So I'll make those two at the same time. And then I will make the three that, the three that are on the bottom here. All right. Now I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I could tell you, although this has already been 40 minutes on a Saturday morning, so it's probably long enough. If anyone, here's my tool. There's my, well, those are the tools I keep out in easy reach. Here's my forsythia again. Oh, there's my shame. Look how messy it is. Does anybody have any questions right now? Because since I'm done, I could actually look at the screen and answer questions. So if you don't have any questions right away, oh, here goes one. Yeah, I don't know why they don't make it, because they make the other one. They make the fancy, the more, the bigger, nicer one. That's why they don't make it anymore. So that's the first step of making a drawer. And if you can get your drawer front to fit like that, the chances that your drawer will come out working well and looking nice are probably about 97%. So it really is it's the bulk of the work in fitting a drawer is done now. And the next time I post something, I don't know if I'm gonna do it live or if I'll make the drawer and then do a live session talking about what I did. Because I mean, no one wants to watch me cut dovetails again. So I will. Yeah, I missed that question. Sorry. Uh, what do I think is wrong with my shooting board? There's nothing wrong with my shooting board. No, I'm not gonna make. What I'll do is I'll do the. I don't think there's anything wrong with my shooting board. It's just that this is, is it square? It's square-ish. It's almost perfectly square, and that's why that needed to be kicked out a little bit and fit that way. So it's just that it's not perfectly square. It's really close though. And someone else asked, am I going to make all the drawer, like fit all the drawer fronts and then make all the drawers? I think I'm going to do it in groups because there's 5 of them. So I'm going to do the 2 across the top first because those are the dovetail layout will be the same. And then I'm going to do these 3 because they're pretty much the same. They're not exactly the same height. Yeah, I'm going to, so the next time, I definitely have one of the next ones that I'll do, next one or the one after that, will be actually the drawers assembled and ready to be fitted in, and I'll definitely show that because then you want to know how something should fit, how it should slide. So someone asked me what wood I'm using with the cherry to make the rest of the drawer from, and this time I'm actually using hard maple. The wet frames are hard maple, and I often use basswood. I couldn't read all that question before it went away. Often I use basswood, and I was going to use white pine here, but I ended up using hard maple, honestly, because, well, it's quarantine. I can't really get out. I don't really want to go out and buy lumber right now. And I had a piece of 12-quarter hard maple, which honestly I don't know why I had it. And so that means I probably just bought it at some point just to have it. And so I used it. I ripped pieces off the edge, laid them down, glued them back together to create, quarter sawn drawer sides. So I'm using hard maple here, although I usually use basswood for drawer parts, on my small stuff. I like the color of basswood with cherry better than I like maple and cherry. But, I just going with what I have. This is for my house, and the maple's going to look fine. So that's what I'm going to use there. It'll probably take me, take me a couple of days to get all these drawers made. Mostly because I don't think I'm going to work all day today in the shop and then all day tomorrow in the shop. So it'll take me a little bit of time to get it all done. And probably, I'll be happy if all these drawers are done and fitted by, say, Wednesday or Thursday of this upcoming week. I do have other stuff to do besides make stuff for myself. So anyways, thanks for checking it out this morning. If you want to go back and rewatch anything, you can shortly. As soon as I'm done, it'll start to upload to my channel. And remember to subscribe. I think you just have to hit a subscribe button or something like that. And All right, Huckleberry, your coffee's more important. Subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos. There aren't that many of them really, and check out my Instagram, which is at MEK Woodworks, and subscribe to that if you don't already. As I mentioned, you can go to my website and you can buy my box book right now. You can get in there are some plans for the shooting board, and also for stuff related to the boxes. You can also pre-order my Kumiko book, which comes out in June. There are signed copies of both available. And I'll at least be back next Saturday for another live feed, but probably before then as well. So I hope everyone is safe and healthy and enjoying their time out of the office. All right? Take care.